Today, we're drinking Thai tea. I have so much tea in my body. I've been coding for just less than a year. And this past year has been one of the most frustratingly hard yet rewarding years I've had. Now, in no way am I super smart or super fast or super genius when it comes to coding. I'm still learning, and I have a lot to learn. I'm learning not only academically from my class, but I'm learning from my peers, from my friends, from YouTube, from Google, from people who are professionals in the world, and just from myself. Now, along this past year that I've been learning how to code, I've been learning a lot of things that have helped me become a better programmer, and that's what I want to share with you today. Tip number 1. Accept that programming is hard. So I made a whole video about 1 year of coding and what I learned, my experiences, and my thoughts. And I had to summarize this 1 year in one line. It would be that programming is hard. Now, if there's any ounce in you that likes programming, you just have to accept the fact that it's tough. You're learning a new language. When I tell people what it's like to be programming for the first time, I tell them that it's like you're learning physics and Spanish, but you're also learning Spanish at the same time. You're learning the syntax and how to write the code, and you're also learning how to program projects, so it's a lot. And it's pretty easy to compare yourself to the software engineering interns at big tech companies or the research assistants at the robotics lab, and to believe that you're not as good as everyone else. Just because you're bad at the beginning doesn't mean you're gonna forever be bad. And if you're willing to accept the fact that programming is hard and it's challenging and it requires you to think in a completely different way, and that you're gonna have to put in the effort and ask for help early on, you can definitely become a better programmer. Well, a good programmer. You just have to be willing to put in the effort. Tip number 2, ask questions. So a few weeks ago, my mom found a report card from elementary school from maybe 3rd grade, and my teacher had written on the report card that Rachel asked a lot of questions. And I don't know if she meant to say that as a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing. My entire academic career, I have always asked questions, and I mean always. Whether it meant that I didn't understand something, or I wanted to clarify something on the homework, or I just didn't know what was going on, my hand would always be up in the class. And while it may have been annoying to other kids that my hand was always up in the class, it felt good to know that I accepted the fact that I didn't understand something was going on, or that I accepted that I needed help and I wasn't afraid to ask for it. So don't think that just because half your class is super smart when it comes to programming, that your questions are going to be judged when it's asked. Because 9 out of 10 times, the question that you have in your head or that you want to ask, someone else is probably thinking the same thing as well. So by you asking the question, you're doing those other people a favor too. And ask questions from your teacher or TA early on, because you don't want to be going into your final not knowing what a linked list is, or not knowing the difference between a while loop or for loop. And if it makes you feel any better, I've asked those so-called stupid questions. I've asked what the difference is between a for loop and a while loop is. I asked what a linked list was. I've asked what global code is. I've asked all the stupid questions that are out there. And I'm here to tell you that there's no question that's too stupid or whatever. They're just questions, so ask them. And programming concepts build upon each other. So if you don't understand a concept from week 1, chances are you're not going to understand a concept in week 7. Because that sorting algorithm you're learning in week 7 is built upon concepts such as queues and stacks. So again, make sure you're asking questions early on so you don't fall super behind. Tip number 3, Google it before asking for help. Now, I know I just said ask questions, but don't ask too many questions or don't ask for help all the time to the point where you're relying on your teacher to walk you through every single line of code. At the beginning, I was definitely guilty of this. I would ask for help for every single error message I got and would need my teacher to walk me through everything. And while it is good for some cases, I got to a point where I was relying on office hours with my professors in order to get the project done. And constantly asking for help limited my chances for learning things on my own and really understand what's going on in my own way. So when you're getting an error message or your code isn't compiling, before asking for help from your teacher or the TA, Google it. Because 99 out of 100 times that error message that you're getting is probably going to be on Stack Overflow or on YouTube or on HackerRank or Geeks for Geeks or something. It's going to be answered. Somebody has already run into the exact same question and the answer is out there somewhere. And if that doesn't work, ask a friend. And once you've exhausted all your resources and can't figure out for the life of you what is going on, then ask your teacher. What I also found super helpful is ask people who are older than you, who have already taken the class, who know what's going on. I have so many friends who are computer science majors or studying computer science who have gone through what I've gone and are able to help me with what's going on. And they've gotten me through so many stressful nights of coding the day before the project was due and just helping me understand what's going on. So just make sure you are using your resources. Use Google, use YouTube, use your friends, use your teachers, use your TA, use the help you can get. Now think about it in the workplace. You're not going to be running to your boss the minute you run into an error. You're going to be asking your peers and your friends on the internet and figure out some things by yourself before you go to your boss. Exhaust all your resources before asking your teacher or your boss for help, because you don't want to be so reliant on them to the point where you can't be your own individual programmer. So yes, try to figure out things for yourself before you ask for help, but when you do ask for help, don't forget that there's so many people out there who are willing to help you. Tip number 4, Draw and write things out. Programming can become really theoretical. I remember in my second programming class, we were learning all these concepts that were so hard to visualize. We were learning about sorting algorithms, about graphs, about data structures, and I couldn't really picture what was going on. And I'm a visual learner, so you can't just spit words at me and expect me to know what's going on. I have to see what's going on. And it's especially hard when it comes to programming because you're telling your computer to do stuff, but you can't really see what it's actually doing. So it didn't take me long to realize that I need to draw this stuff out. And a really good website that helped me see this was Visualco, and I'll link that down below as well. And it's not a surprise why I like legal pads or why I like whiteboards so much. I like being able to draw stuff out and seeing in front of me what exactly is going on, so that it's easier to code it. And that brings me to the second part of this tip: write things out. So when it comes to the actual coding part, I found it really helpful to write the code in plain English before you actually code it, or also known as pseudocode. Suppose I had a function where it would take in a list of numbers. It would iterate through that list to see if a number was odd. And if that number was odd, it would return that number. If it wasn't odd, then it would just go to the next number. So if I had code like that, I would write it all out in English, and then I would transcribe it to actual Python or Java or whatever language you're using. This helped me not only code more efficiently, but also make my code a lot cleaner and easier to understand. So if you're not understanding the logic for any algorithm or any project out there, just draw it out and write out the code, and it should help a lot. Tip number 5. Use print statements and comments. I think every programmer out there is going to tell you the exact same thing. It's really hard to know what your computer is actually doing. You expect it to do one thing, but it's giving you an error and doing these other things, but you don't really know what is going on. So use comments, use print statements. Whenever I would run into a bug in a chunk of my code, I would put a print statement for every line of code in that chunk so I could actually see what was going on. I would assign things to variables, print that variable so I could see what was actually being returned. By printing out each and every step of that code, I could see where the error in my logic was. And by using comments, I could also see what I wanted that code to do or what it was doing beforehand. And being able to write these things out is really going to help you debug your code. Tip number 6. Notice your patterns and catch your mistakes. So remember when I was learning Python, I would always get this error, something like int not subscriptable, and I didn't know what it meant, and I would run for help as soon as I got it. But as I started to get the error more and more, I started realizing that I was just using the wrong data type. I was putting a number where I was supposed to be putting a string. And once I realized that, I actually sat down to read what the error was saying, I was always remembering to make sure that I was putting the right data type. So whenever you see an error message or run into a mistake that you're constantly getting, make sure you actually understand what's going on and actually tell yourself what's going on, because then your brain will register what the mistake was and you're less likely to make that in the future. What really helps with this is also having an IDE, or an integrated development environment. IDEs are super helpful because they're basically the word processor equivalent for programming. It tells you where your syntax is off, where you have extra spaces, or where you're missing a variable, and it will basically yell at you when things are wrong. So having an IDE also makes it easier to catch these mistakes so you won't make them in the future. Tip number 7. Collaborate with your peers. Now, just as I'm a visual learner, I'm also a collaborative one. I need to be able to bounce off ideas from other people, I need to ask help for others, I need to just talk to the other people in the class. And something I do in every single class I go into where I don't know a friend, I always exchange numbers with someone else in the class. And I'm telling you, this has been my saving grace for every single programming class I've taken. And being a stat major who was taking CS courses, I didn't know any other stat majors or had any friends in classes. So I needed to know at least one person in the class so I could ask for help or clarify something on the homework or just make sure I knew what was going on. Now, this person or these group of people don't need to necessarily be your best friend, but they will become your support system at the beginning stages of learning how to program. I remember when I was taking Python for the first time, I was in a group of 5 or 6 other people, and we would just help each other so much understand the logic and just get each other through the class, because it was tough. Because yes, there is Google and YouTube and all that stuff out there, but having that one other person or the group of people to go through what you're going and understand the struggles of the class is really helpful. And something I like to do is that when it came towards finals or midterms, our group would get together and then we would teach each other the subjects. And what I learned is that if you're able to teach a concept to someone else, not only does it help you understand what's going on, but your friends are also there to tell you where you explain something inaccurately and will help you become better. And especially since we're online, it's really helpful to get the contact information of just one person out there. So ask your teacher if you can set up some sort of collaborative discussion group so you could contact other people in the class. And this will really help a lot. Okay, so those are the 7 tips that I have on how I learned to become a better programmer. And I'm still going to be using these tips all the time when it comes to learning code, because I'm still learning so much every single day. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. I make more videos regarding computer science, statistics, data science, and just things that I'm learning constantly through this field that I want to share with you guys. If you don't know who I am Rachel. I'm a statistics major and data science minor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I'm a 3rd year and I'm super passionate about this stuff, and I just dedicated this entire channel to me geeking out about all this. That's it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
you.